All right, so let's see. So now we're looking at Shabbat Mincha in this blue book.
Yeah.
And everybody knows what page it's on the Bible, because I never
170?
use this book.
Oh, in the blue book.
I never use this book, so I
Why don't we
don't
just
know
do it in
the
the
page,
red book?
because Sandy doesn't have that.
Ah,
So it won't be in the same book, it just makes it so much
230
easier.
something, isn't it?
Maybe.
It is 230,
Yeah, 226.
226.
That's actually.
So last week when we went over the basic structure of the melody. We went over that. We talked about the cool little insertion when it goes da 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 da. Were you here last week, Sandy?
No.
So, the seven times during the Mincha service on Shabbat, you have this melody that goes da 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 da. And everybody sings along with that. Everybody sings along with that. Now, the guys that become newbie to the minyan, they sing loud because they know they're supposed to join, right? What's interesting, what I pointed out something really interesting about that melody is that melody actually is part of the Kol Nidre melody.
Oh.
So it's actually part of that. So because the question is which came first, and it's really not clear actually. So anyway, but that melody is inserted 7 times into the
Okay.
7 times, but it's just that comes in, of course, 7's an important number, right? Obviously, it's related to Shabbat. We talked a little bit about what's called the Kedusha de Yoma. Last time, do you know what that was? Anybody?
The Kedusha of the day?
Kedusha de Yoma.
Yoma? No.
So that's the Aramaic. It means Kiddush Hayom.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, Kedusha de Yoma, that's the Aramaic for the same words. Don't forget that Aramaic was the language that everybody spoke during much of the Middle Ages, when a lot of the stuff became codified not only melodically but textually. If you look, so we talked about the structure of the Amidah in general. So remember how many brachot are there in a weekday service?
19.
19, that's correct. The Shemona Esrei is there are 19 blessings and the 18 blessings, right?
Right.
We talked about that, right? But on Shabbat and on festivals, there's only 7 brachot, right?
Oh.
So what happens is the blessing, and the first 3 and the last 3 blessings of every Amidah are the same. The first blessing is called Avot. That our forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then we have, it's called the Beginning of Shabbat. We have Giverot, which talks about God's greatness and the fact that that really ends with B'chayei HaMetim, right? In other words, what makes God great? God can bring the dead back to life.
Right.
Which, by the way, resurrection of the dead is actually it's a very important part of Jewish tradition, even though we think of that as very Christian, right? Then Kiddushot, the Kedusha. So that's the first 3 blessings are the same. From the Ritzei to the end is those 3 blessings are the same. So it's what happens in the middle that's significant. It's really significant. So on Shabbat there are four different amidas that you say, and each one of those amidas, the blessing in the middle, which is called the Kedusha de Yoma, the sanctification of the day, is one on Shabbat it outlines. We can help.
Sorry?
Okay.
Yeah.
So it outlines 4 different aspects of Shabbat. On Friday night, you have one aspect. On Shabbat Shachrit, you have one. On Nusach, you have one. On Shabbat Mincha, you have one. So that's called the Kedusha de Yoma. We didn't go into great detail about what each of these are, but just to kind of point out what's structurally happening. And you can see the same thing that when you have, like if it's Pesach or Shavuot or Sukkot, the Kedusha de Yom is specific to that festival, right? To those festivals. So each one of those are different. And there's only one, interestingly enough, there's only one service that has more than 7 brachot, which is there's only one service that had only one service in which in the Amidah there's more than 7 brachot.
And during Shabbat, right?
What?
Like one service during Shabbat?
No, not doing Shabbat. One service in the entire set of liturgy.
Oh,
Do you mean the one that has 19?
No,
That's a trick question.
it's not really a trick question.
Don't know.
It's Musaf and Yom Kippur.
oh,
Oh, that's right.
Musaf and Yom Kippur, there are 2 extra blessings in Musaf and Yom Kippur. Aside from that, every festival, every festival holiday has 7 blessings, except for that one.
But what about Musaf on Rosh Hashanah? Isn't that a really long?
It's you know why it's long? You know why the services are long on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? It's not the actual, it's the additional stuff, meaning the series of piyutim, which are medieval poems. And they just go on for, forever and ever and ever. Like if you take a real old Moxel, you might have like 60 pages of piyutim. They're really quite fascinating. And you can spend like an entire lifetime and a half to studying each of the piyutim. They're really very complex and beautiful, a lot of intertextuality and all kinds of great stuff. Okay, so melodically, we talk about melodically the service is really quite simple, but we didn't get actually to the repetition of the Amidah. So I thought let's just look at that a little bit. The repetition of the Amidah for Shabbat Mincha.
On page 234.
234 is correct. Well, yeah, so the beginning of this, the beginning of the Avot, the Avot, Gevurot, and Kedusha, it's so the Avot and the Gevurot is the same as you find, and the Kedusha actually is the same as you find on any weekday evening, any weekday afternoon service. So the melody is the same. A lot of people have the misconception that you should be singing this like Shabbat morning. But that's not true. You should do this according to a weekday morning, weekday afternoon service, which is the same as weekday morning. So it's Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov. And if you add the Imahot, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, right? Right, so that's the same.
Dan, do we add the imachot on Shabbat Mincha?
I usually don't, but if there's someone else dominating that wants to, then we have it's kind of like it's dealer's choice. It's dealer's choice. But, I find it that a complex subject. Box of Kleenex is nothing there. I love empty boxes of Kleenex.
Empty. Get your own box. You go to the chapel and get your own box.
All right, so I find the Imahot really interesting because if you really think about it logically, God did not really have a relationship with Rivka, Rachel, Sarah, and Leah. Right? The relationship that God had was with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So when we say Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, that makes sense. Elohei Sarah, God never really called Sarah. to do anything. God really called Rivka to do anything. He never called Leah to do anything, right? So there's not that.
The people who reported on this did not report that God called on these people, on these women.
Okay.
I think the jury is out on that.
Well, okay. Yeah, this can be a long discussion. I mean, I think in some ways the jury is out, but part of the, if you're going to go into if you're going to look at it legally, you need evidence, and there's no evidence.
Okay.
Evidentiary, whatever they call it.
Everything we read this past week, we're told to, Rivka didn't, like, she really was just acting on her own, telling Jacob to get the blessing, and it wasn't like she felt God had told her to do that.
Right, exactly. And God didn't say this is what you should do.
So it is okay.
God didn't say to Sarah, this is what you should do. But with Abraham, God said, Abraham, do this. And I'm making you a promise. You do this, and I will give you something. Yitzchak, you do this, and you'll be a blessing, and I will give you something. Right. So this is my own take on it. I know that I'm probably politically incorrect, but and I certainly understand the other perspective. I'm just saying from a logical perspective. But I'm very happy and willing to do the imahot, if people want to do that, which is fine. And
okay.
So I hope so, Sandy. Don't report to the board on this.
I will not report to you.
Yeah.
Your secret's safe with me, Dan.
and all the other people that are watching this.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so right. So this is so we have the bracha. It's a thing. The Kaddish is the same as you would do on a weekday, and the text is the same too. Look, there's no special text here. There's nothing that says Shabbat here anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's only when you get back. But what happens is, there's a tradition that you switch back to Shabbat Nusach. And again, like with the festivals, you can ask different people who will give you slightly different variations of when you switch to Shabbat Nusach. Do you switch it? The leader switch it Yimloch or Lador Vador, right? I usually switch it Lador Vador, but there's a very strong case to switch it Yimloch, and the reason for that would be that on the festivals and on the high holidays, that's where you switch also. So you can do either. But once you get to Lador Vador, then you're switching back to what's called Shabbat Nusach. So then you back to da 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 da. Ledor vador nagi god lecha l'nesem nesakim kushecha nakish. And here's one of those times v'shivchacha Eloheinu yipinu loyanush le'olam va'ed ki hamelech gadol v'kadosh ata baruch ata Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Right. And so you just basically the rest of the repetition of the Amidah can be done and is almost always done based, in that same Nusach. I just keep doing it over and over again. There are some composed settings for this, which I've taken to do with the past couple of years, which goes like Ata Echad V'Shimecha Echad U'Mikiyamcha Yisrael. U'Mikiyamcha Yisrael Goy Echad Ba'aretz Tiferet Gedula Abba Teret Yeshua Yom Nucha U'Tishar Liyamcha Natata. That's it. So there's a composed melody that it's based in the Nusach, but and I've taken to do that. Some people will actually throw in some other melodies here. I've heard people do, like in the second paragraph in 236, I've heard people do Kaddishenu b'mitzvotecha v'tem chalkeinu b'toratecha. That melody that we see that in the high holidays usually, right? But the thing is that people will sometimes throw in these melodies, which sometimes are within the Nusach structure, sometimes they're not. And what I've said several times is that as long as you get back to the Chatima in the right Nusach, then it's okay to throw in some of these other melodies. You know what I mean by the Chatima, Sandy?
Yes,
Okay, good. Michael, you know what the Chatima is?
the seal.
The seal.
Yeah, SEAL.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah, so think about, we have some beautiful things, right? The word comes up in weddings a lot, which they use some text from Shir HaShirim, like Simeni kachotam al libecha, make me as a seal upon your heart.
Mhm.
Beautiful line, right? Simeni kachotam, it's beautiful, right? So it's just the same word from it's the same root for as chatima. Simeni kachotam chatima. Good. And but in the Megillat Esther, the king with the signet ring, like 12 times during the Megillat Esther, with the signet ring, he chatom, 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 right? He seals it. He seals a letter to, save the Jews, no, kill the Jews, no, save the Jews. Anyway, so that's basically the structure there. It's just
Okay.
that over and over again. There's really nothing. There's really nothing complex about it. Just making sure that you get flow the words well. That's the only hard part, is practicing the words. And then now there's a tradition to do what's called Tzidkat Hatzedek on 239 at the bottom of the page. I've always found an interesting little passage, textually. It's just saying that that God is eternal, a judge, and is there to save us. And I learned a little tune. Actually, I found this tune. Most of the time, for the first 28 years or so that I was here, I would just read this out loud, which I always find reading text out loud. There are certain things that I think make religious services intolerable and basically not engaging and not spiritual. That is reading text out loud. But the thing that's worse, I've said this before, but the worst thing ever on the planet is responsive readings. If you just want to say to your congregation, we don't care about you, let's do a responsive reading. That's again, this is my personal take about that. I just think that they're horrifyingly disengaging. Anyway, but they exist. So people do. But I have this nice little melody. It's actually, I have the name of the Chazan somewhere in that wrote it. It's actually pretty old. It's from the 1870s actually, but I just learned it recently. Which go, and you've heard this before when you come to services. Tzidkat Hatzedek Liolam, B'Torach Hamed, B'Tikacha Elohim Baro, Asher Asita Gedolot, Elohim Michamocha Tzidkacha Kirharel, Mishpatecha Tehom Rava, Adam Toshia Adonai. Okay, so that's a beautiful melody. Again, you can just read it in English or Hebrew. And then the next thing that happens is the Kaddish Shalem, which is on page 247 in this book. And you're back to you do it in either a weekday minor or in major. Again, there's some of these things that are fluid. So you can do Yid Gadol V'Gadol Shemei Rabbah, like that, that major. Or you can do Yid Gadol V'Gadol Shemei Rabbah. You can do either one, and either one is perfectly acceptable. And I've never really got a straight answer from any of my Nusach teachers as to why the major, both the major and the minor are acceptable.
So you're not going to give us a straight answer yet?
No, I'm not, because I don't have an answer.
Wow.
All right, so we have a
Well,
link.
and for some of us who don't really know what major or minor mean, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, yes.
Right. Only speaking for myself.
Oh, actually, Craig and I were having this conversation today too. I was saying, I don't really know what major, like, I think major is being happier and minor is being more sorrowful.
Well,
But I don't
I
know
mean,
if
there actually is that to it, you know, there's certain.
And our
It just has to-
major
it has to-
usually sharp and minor flat.
Oh, it's right, you know, Cal can give you a whole lecture on music
Wow.
theory, but, you know, because he's a musician, he knows this stuff, but it, you know, major and minor just basically has to do with the relationships between the intervals of the pitch. It just, you know, have a certain number of whole steps, certain number of half steps, and the order that they come, that's what makes something, you know, either major or minor. I'm not gonna get into too much more than that, but you can hear the difference, right? And then, of course, there's a lane which everybody sings. Against composed beats, not full.
Mhm.
People sing this, you know, it's not really appropriate for Shabbat Mincha. Sing it, but
Is it ever appropriate?
Huh?
Is it ever?
No, it's actually never appropriate to sing a lane, and that's not true. Shabbat is appropriate because the Aleinu L'Shabeach Mano, not full. Again, it's composed composition. Do you know who wrote that hell?
What, the language of that?
Is that Lewandowski? Is that a?
I have no idea.
Okay. But it is a composed setting. And it was written for Shabbat morning. Right. And you guys, I don't know, Sandy, when we had a discussion of about where the Aleinu comes from and why we actually shouldn't be doing it 95% of the time.
Why we what, 95%?
Why we shouldn't be doing it, like I should say, why we shouldn't do it, period. I should say actually 99.999% of the time.
Why is that?
What do you mean
Why is it?
historically in the congregation? Because I've been in congregations where they modified the Aleinu. You know, like they have different words because they, you know, they don't like the chosen this part and the other things that are putting other populations down.
Okay,
So a lot of places I know, you see, Aleinu has been part of my life, shul life, my whole life,
right.
but never before Temple Emmanuel did I see any place that opened the ark.
Okay.
That was just, you know, a Temple Emmanuel thing.
And God willing, you'll never see that again.
No, we still do it on Shabbat.
I'm
We do
sorry.
it on Shabbat still.
We still do it on Shabbat. We stopped doing it during the weekday. Though.
Yeah, but I thought though that it was like if there were several people saying Kaddish, it was a way to give somebody an honor.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. To give people honors.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I like that.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of places that have dropped the Ushma, 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 the 3 times because of the relationship to the Trinity.
Wow. Wow. That's
And so actually the shul that I grew up in did, and the shul that my sister belongs to in New York
They
did.
won't sing that 3 times because it's
They just say Ushma Echad.
because of the relation with Trinity. And think about how many things in Judaism require the tradition. The minhag is based on the number 3.
Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh.
Yeah, right, exactly right. So
Yeah.
so that's the Latin.
If you go to an Orthodox shul, an Orthodox minyan, they never sing.
They don't sing a language, right?
You just.
Oh, they don't?
No, because the melody that we sing was actually written for Shabbat. So on a weekday afternoon, a weekday morning, a weekday, you know, you really shouldn't be singing. You should do it in the Nusach, like Aleinu you do like in Aleinu Shabbat Ladona Kol, you know, just like something basic in the Nusach, right? Now, but what you pointed out before is that even reciting the Aleinu, we shouldn't do 99.99999% of the time.
Because it's
Yes,
for
well,
Rosh
right.
Hashanah,
Right,
right?
exactly.
It's Rosh
Yeah,
Hashanah.
Michael has the answer.
Okay, is it Musaf? That's the
Yeah.
one thing.
What's
So the answer is that
Rosh
the
Hashanah.
Aleinu,
Oh,
as we know it, that particular text
oh, right.
was written, was composed specifically and only for the Musaf, for the Malchuyot section of the Musaf service on Rosh Hashanah.
Hmm,
Because think about it, it's all about God's kingship. It was composed
Right.
specifically and only for that moment, and it's the only time in Jewish practice that we do anything close to bowing down. Well, which actually does bow down, right, and you have that beautiful melody that composed. That this is his also melody, the 11,000. No, it's also.
Yeah.
That's Sulzer?
I'm pretty sure it's also.
I thought that was more basic. More basics with the new stuff.
Like older, I don't know, I should check that.
Hmm.
But anyway, so that text was meant only for that one moment of the high holiday, not for Yom Kippur, not for Shacharit, not any other time, just that.
mhm.
But like it took on a life of its own. It took on a life of its own.
Yeah.
And then became since it was added on at the end of the service, and this is the prayer that everybody knows how to sing. So it's the one prayer that we really shouldn't say most of the time, and it's the melody we shouldn't use.
Right, except it does give people who know very little bit about the service a chance to participate,
Yes, exactly right.
Now, Dan,
which is also the reason that you or I do responsive readings at a Shiva Minyan,
Right.
because it gives people who have no idea what the hell is going on a
Sometimes-
chance to participate.
Yes. No, I really think that's a valid perspective.
Yeah.
I really do, so, right.
Yeah.
Especially, the sad part is that you have Shiva Minyans where people don't even know how to do basic evening service.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people, well, we did 4 nights at the Grants, you did the 5th night, but
Yeah. I'm surprised that, do they actually have 10 Jews?
we did. Well, we called in some people, but yeah, we did.
I mean, knowing Michael and his extended family, his family and friends, I could be surprised we got to 10 Jews in the same room at the same time.
Yeah, no, we did. We counted everyone. Yeah.
I went, so he asked me to do a final Shiva at his house on Saturday night, which is
Yeah,
like,
I know. He told me. Yeah.
which is like nuts, but but it's okay. It was a lovely experience.
Yeah.
Anyway, so right, so I lost track of that derailed it. As we talk about the lady, right? So we do
Yeah.
right. And then of course we end with a more Kaddish.
what would happen, Dan,
Yeah.
if, like, when I'm leading the weekday,
And you just didn't do a lady?
and I just went, Elena, and didn't continue?
Well, what
People
would happen
actually
is-
start singing it, you think?
I would think that it's gonna a bunch of people will just start singing it anyway.
Yes.
I think they would.
I've done that before, and some of the other people, like when Alan Lehman leads company, he doesn't do the melody. But people just start singing it.
Or Moshe Waldots, for him.
Moshe Waldes will just, but he'll sing it in English. Moshe will sing it in English.
Hmm.
It is upon us, O Lord. Whatever he said. I always find that really interesting. A little disconcerting, but interesting.
Sing Aleinu in English?
But Moshe will do a lot of prayers in English.
Really?
But it's an interesting thing to think about, actually. Like, if we're praying and we have no idea what the words mean, why even do it, right? So, there is that aspect, to prayer. Why is the Kaddish in Aramaic, not Hebrew? Which is even harder for most of us than the Hebrew.
In the Hebrew, right? But because of the time, that was the
That was
common
the
language.
Yeah, exactly. The Kaddish was composed in Aramaic so that everybody could say it, because that was the language that everybody knew how to speak.
Right.
Yeah. So,
I think we should redo it and make it all to the Jewish, to Hebrew.
Well, I think there might be some Hebrew that actually have it at all. So that's basically this. That's really it. There's not a lot of mystery. As Bill Belichick says, Bill Belichick would say, "There's no mystery here, boys.
Yeah,
Do your job."
Yeah.
your job, right?
Do your job. Do your job. Do your job. That's the trinity of job doing.
Trinity of jobs. Right?
So, Dan, are you gonna, do you have already recordings of,
So Shabbat Mincha has been on the temple website for at least 8 years.
really? Okay. Okay,
The only thing what's interesting is what's not on the website is anything for Friday night.
really?
And
So,
a couple of years ago, I asked Elias and Eliza and Michelle to each record like different things, and we like make a little compendium to put up like 4 different ways to sing, Lachad Odi with 4 different people singing, something like that.
yeah,
But yeah, we'd love to do that.
yeah.
No, but no one actually ever did it.
Mhm.
You know? So, I mean, my plan is to actually I think that I might have actually recorded it once, but it's like, it's better to record it as individual recordings, because I think with the way I recorded the first time, it's like the whole service without being able to stop and pause and go back, and to have like,
Oh, uh-huh,
like if I make individual recordings and send them to Brian, he can upload them onto the website.
right, right.
Chadodi 1, the Chadodi 2.
Oh, and then
3.
somebody can
You
select
can click
that from
on it,
it.
click on it and find,
Right.
oh, like I want to learn how to do chess. I need to practice, Kaddish or something like that. Or whatever.
Yeah, that would be great, Dan.
And would you,
Yeah.
the
But
kids that you
the
would do
Shabbat,
it?
the Shabbat Mincha is there. It's been there for a long time. So you
Okay,
go on the website and you just click on the website. It'll take you about 45 minutes to 2 hours to find something on the website.
I was gonna say, even if it's there, it's most likely hidden because it's the most impossible website I have ever encountered.
Right.
Where is it hidden? That's what I want to know.
I think it must be under prayer and
Is there
or
where?
Oh,
something like that. Michael's gonna pull up his tablet, see if he can find it. Yeah.
I have not.
I'm assuming it's still there because I made these recordings a long time ago. And Elias, so I did some and Elias did some. But under prayer, I'm not sure if it's under prayer, and then under like, I think there's this thing that says learn how to lead services or something like that. And
Okay, I'll look.
yeah, I mean, I could do it again, but if it's not there anymore, just find out how to access it.
Okay,
That's the big. Now the last thing we didn't to go over was just think about Havdalah.
Yeah,
Are you gonna
We
tell
know
us
by the end
that's
that-
wrong too?
We know that that's beautiful. It's a beautiful, engaging piece of music, which has nothing to do with Nusach at all. What page is Havdalah on in this book?
160.
I don't know.
93.
Oh, I found it, page 299.
99.
Never
I-
been to that
I
page.
grew up knowing the other Havdalah. I have to tell you that.
That's all it is.
The Osborne.
That's really it.
Yeah.
The very simple Nusach. Right. Debbie Friedman, growing up in a extremely classic reform
Yes.
where they literally did not sing anything. It inspired her to write melodies for things.
Right.
So therefore everybody knows, her setting of it, right? And it's everybody knows that some people think that that's Nusach. And then it also begs the question of what Nusach really is, get the core what Nusach is, right? Because we think about like, what did something sound like 500 years ago?
Mhm.
And I don't, and do we do some things the same or not? And why? Right? It's really a interesting question, right? Did you find it, Michael?
Not, I mean, I guess Sandy's right, because sometimes at home I find things, but when I'm here,
I think it's hard on a tablet.
like I was wondering if it was under learning.
Oh, that would have been a smart choice, Michael.
There is prayer though too, when I tried that, but it was more well, there's prayer service times. And then there's the 7 gates, and the 7 gates brings you to more of an index. And there's prayer services, you know.
I think the Encyclopedia Britannica was easier to use.
Oh, much, 100 times easier.
You just
Really,
open-
this website, you know what I do when I need to find something on the website? I send an email to Jeff Laurie.
Or I said, hey, Brian, where is this?
No, I send it to Jeff and I said, I cannot find this. And he usually sends me a link to
Right.
something on the website. And I keep saying, but I shouldn't have to email you.
Right, exactly. It's not as though you're not a completely computer.
No, I am not.
No, right. So, anyway.
Yeah.
So, not Michael's gonna be up till
Yeah,
4 in the
that's-
morning trying to find this on the website.
I'm going to play around with it when we get off. I'm going to look on the website.
But anyway, but many people have composed, settings for Havdalah. There's a beautiful setting that we know that Charles wrote. But I've counterfacted that a little bit to be able to do it to do the service, because the setting that Charles wrote it's actually a Sephardic wedding song.
Oh,
And he used that Sephardic wedding song, for Havdalah, but he wrote it for soloist, harp, and 4-part choir.
mm.
It's absolutely, we performed it a few times. It's glorious. It's just so glorious. It's so beautiful, Safam, that's a beautiful version of it. You know this one, no? Yeshua. And then it changes keys again. So it's again, Safam's a beautiful version of it. And it's nice to do these things, right? But if you're leading in the service, most of the time, if you do Debbie Friedman, everyone's going to know it.
Yes.
That's fine,
It's very accessible.
It's very accessible. That was the imprimatur of most of her music, is that although a lot of times it's when you hear it, it sounds like it's something actually simple, but when you actually try to sing it, it's maybe not as simple to sing it in the right key.
Right.
Yeah. It's
I
not,
don't bother myself with those kinds of things, Dan.
who wrote the show? Like Jeff Klepper wrote Jeff Klepper, Jeff Klepper?
Yeah.
But he wrote Shalom Rav, right? And
Yeah.
It's such an easy thing to sing, except that it's not.
Yeah.
The second part where it changes keys completely, everybody sings that. It's like sometimes I have to get in my car and drive for 2 hours to get the sound out of my head. Because some people just sing it so hard.
That's funny.
Because people they can't find the key change, and it's just terrible, right? But so it's disarming. It sounds disarmingly simple, but it's not.
Yeah.
Jeff Klepper was never into writing simple things.
No, not really. Some of the stuff he wrote is simple. Well,
But yeah, he's
What's what
man stuff.
you know Jeff Klepper.
No, I don't know, and like it's just a
Oh, you
member,
don't
like,
know.
a member.
So Jeff Klepper, and he's here in the area, right? He's a composer.
Oh, so he does.
Yeah, he's my age. He's older than me. But he's a composer. He was a cantor for a long time, but he had some issues with some vocal nodes, so he stopped doing. But he's one of these icons of the Reform movement. If you say Jeff Klepper, if you walk into Reform synagogue and just say Jeff Klepper, everybody will bow down. He's like right up there with Debbie Friedman. His songs are iconic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, if you will look at the temple website today, where Elias put up his thing about the Hanukkah happens, his high notes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So.
I saw it with Joel. There was a nice piece with
But then it cuts up, but then it starts again where Joel plays.
Yeah.
So it's 4 different songs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember that, someone watched that with me. And then someone said, well, Joel's taking credit for Nachamu. He didn't write that. That's
Yes,
a
he
camp
did.
song. They said it's a camp song.
Yeah.
So they said it's a camp song. Everybody was from camp. He didn't write that. So I went into my office and I pulled out the sheet music where it says with the publication date acknowledging that he wrote it. They said, no, that can't be true. I said, come on,
Yeah.
Everybody knows that song. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
What were these people going to camp in the 1970s or the 1980s?
No, the 70s probably.
But that might have been around, I'm guessing, when you would have wrote it.
Yeah, I mean that. So then, what happens is these songs become popular, people hear them and they sing them and that kind of thing. Yeah.
They're saying
Well,
he's,
the song started in
Some
70.
people saying that they said it was a camp song, but it was just like it was like, she'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. Everybody knows that's a song that everybody knows and nobody wrote it, except that it's a published piece of music.
Yes, right.
so has it ever been found in a version that was not?
No, he wrote that song.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It's not something you would hear.
No, just that someone didn't believe that it was actually a composed music, a piece of music, and that Joel wrote it. I said, you guys, this is the person I was talking to said, that Joel's actually a very well-known composer.
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that. It's like, okay, fine. Well, now you have more information. And then, by the way, this is a guy named Lenny Bernstein. He wrote a couple of songs.
Right.
He didn't write enough Jewish music, though.
Bernstein? I don't know. He wrote a lot of spiritual music. I agree with that. Sandy, if you know about his upbringing, Leonard Bernstein, he went to Mishkan Tefillah as a kid in Dorchester, the one in Dorchester, and there was a cantor there, Brailovsky, right? No,
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Shoot.
the cantor of Mishkan, who this is like I've heard some recordings from when he was the guy with a magnificent voice, but he was just like the most amazing composer of literature.
Breslovsky, is that?
Breslovsky, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was a choir conductor, organist, cantor, composer, and that's how Bernstein, whatever I pronounce the name, that was his first kind of like engagement with spiritual music. And the story goes that the first time he heard one of these compositions, he turned to his father in shul and said, "This is what I want to do. I want to write music like that."
Wow. Wow.
So that was very inspiring for him, right?
His father said, "No, you'll become a doctor."
Yeah. Then there's the iconic story. I don't know if it's true or not. I think it was in the Boston Globe. It's not sure if it's actually true or not. That when Sam, his father, when Sam Bernstein turned 70, Lenny threw a big party for him at the Park Plaza, one of the big hotels in Boston. And one of the interviewers, Sam was against his son becoming a musician because he was from the old country. And, a musician was a klezmer, it's a guy who played for music.
Yeah, right.
Was in his hat, that kind of thing. He didn't want to say he wanted something, be successful. So he didn't really want him to be a musician. So, this is the best quote. He said that the interviewer said, "Well, why didn't you want your son to become a musician?" And he said, "Well, who knew he'd be Leonard Bernstein?"
Right. That's a good line. Excellent.
Anyway, so like I say, most of this is the Shabbat Mincha is all recorded. If we can find it, if not, I will spend some time re-record some of these things. I'm happy to do that. And I can even like give you like this a Safam version, a Debbie Friedman version, an Osborne version, using some of the melodies from his setting to do Havdalah. And people are writing all this stuff all the time. I was actually thinking about the sense of what Nusach really is. we have these things that go back hundreds and hundreds of years. This is the way it's done. This is the way it's done. But then you have, like, if you go to a Sephardic shul, an Ethiopian shul, the melodies are going to be totally different. If you listen to Joel's interview with Elias, he talks about the song "Just Another Foreigner" that he wrote.
Yes.
And, and he said these guys were davening. Oh no, this was Joel said at breakfast today. He said he went to this. He was really like the only Ashkenazi in Kiryat Shmona, and they were all like, and they were davening. He said he was there for like the high for Kol Nidre and for Yom Kippur, and he's got a matzah in front of him, and he said until they got to like Avinu Malkeinu and did Avinu Malkeinu, and he said, I didn't recognize the pronunciation of the Hebrew. I didn't know where we were. I didn't, none of the melodies or anything I ever heard before. I just sat there like an idiot. Because he had no idea what was going on, right? Because their sense of melodic, the sense of melody and structure is not the same as Eastern European Jewry.
Yeah.
You can say, what's the Nusach? Is it what some Taimani, some some Ethiopian, some Iraqi, some Iranian, they have Iraqis and Iranians and Egyptians. They all have their own different things that they do, right? And it might sound similar to us, but it's very different.
Yeah.
Than what these are. So what is Nusach really, right? It's you can say this. So there is a phenomenon that's in the past 15, 20 years, people will say, they'll say Nusach Sfarad, or Nusach Taimani, or Nusach Mizrahi, that would be, or Nusach Ashkenaz, or Nusach, this is the best line ever, Nusach America Hatzfonit.
America what?
America Hatzfonit, the Nusach of North America.
Oh.
Because we do things differently than like a lot of other places in the world, right? So you come here and we know all these songs, we sing this, we sing that, and we look at people say, but people that come from other parts of the world say, "What are you guys doing?" That's not Nusach. Yeah, it is. To us, it's Nusach, right?
Yeah.
So it's it's a game of it's like the game of telephone, but it started like 2,500 years ago, and it just keeps changing.
Right.
It keeps changing.
Right.
So that's what I love about Nusach. It
It
doesn't have to be static, but there are some things that are still considered very traditional, especially within the Ashkenazic world. Within the weekday versus Shabbat versus festivals, and all these things. So I just find it fascinating that the way we approach prayer, like 200 years ago.
Mhm.
You could drop a Jew into a service pretty much anywhere, in pretty much anywhere in the world, and they could tell you what service it was. Was it weekday morning, afternoon, evening? Was it a festival? Which festival was it? Was it by holidays? People used to know this stuff. It used to be their bread and butter. Everybody knew Nusach. Everybody and their brother's twin, knew Nusach. Right? Now it's just not as much known.
Mhm.
So I don't know if we're going to do another. Maybe we should do like one more class. Although I guess I've been through everything that I meant to go over. But maybe I should do for next week is to be able to send recordings to everybody. We could actually try to sing through a few things from each
Oh,
of them.
that'd be fun. Yeah.
You could send
It'll be a
us.
final exam. I want a 2-page paper.
Yes. Right.
Never, yeah.
I'll write you Abdullah.
Oh, Hal's gonna write a Havdalah for us.
I don't think I would do it.
What a melody, or
Sure. He can do it.
or new words.
What's that? The right words. We will now check Abdullah. Hold on.
Now, the other thing is that if you look at 299 again, you have the Hine El Yeshuati, right? That opening paragraph. Now, there's actually in a lot of places, a lot of synagogues won't do this part of it in synagogue. They'll start with the bracha over the wine.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a tradition that, that this is actually meant to be, this part of it's really meant to be done only at home. The heating. Okay. So if you're doing Havdalah in shul, it's one thing. If you're doing it at home, it's different.
Right.
And then there's always the fascinating question of, like on Hanukkah, Shabbat Mincha during Hanukkah, when do you do Havdalah? Before or after you light the menorah?
Before.
Okay,
So
well, why? If you haven't done Havdalah, yet. How can you light the menorah?
Well, that's why I said you have to do Havdalah before.
Oh, okay. So yeah, before. Okay, the answer is no.
Oh, okay.
No. Okay. So now I think like, all right, if I haven't lit the Havdalah candle yet, how can I light the menorah?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That makes no sense at all. Right? In shul. Now at home you do Havdalah first. You light the menorah. In shul you do it the other way.
Wow.
And
Okay.
the rabbi said, well, the reason for that is you might forget to light the menorah, which wouldn't happen, but that's what they said.
Yeah.
Right? But interesting enough, you turn back in the evening service after Shabbat to the Amidah. Oh,
Something about the Mari for weekend?
yeah. You do so in other words, after Shabbat, before Havdalah, you do the Mari for weekday. Right?
It is on 286.
Okay, this is a problem. Oh, no. Okay. Look at page 287. So look at page 287, right? And it says, at the conclusion of Shabbat and Yom Tov. This, and then the next paragraph, the small, it says Atachonim Adam Dad. Right? That's in smaller print. So in other words, normally in a regular evening weekday service, you would say Atachonim Adam Dad, that's but at the end of Shabbat, you have an extended blessing here. But look at the second line. Look at the last, starting with this page 287, starting with the last word of the second line, where it says V'tavdeo Adonai Eloheinu bein kodesh l'chol bein or l'choshech bein Yisrael la'amin bein yom hashvili shashvi l'sheshit me'ama'aseh.
Mhm.
Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yes.
so
That's the words of it. So in other words, Havdalah itself, lighting a candle, drinking the wine, smelling the spices, is a nice little ceremonial thing which is not required. You know why? Because you actually say it, you do Havdalah as part of the evening tefillah. You've already made Havdalah by saying this bracha.
Mm-hmm.
So Havdalah is like it's just like this made up nice little ceremony to have, right? Like, and again, this goes back to remember we talked way back when 4 or 5 weeks ago. It seems like a lifetime ago about the Kabbalists and the creation of Kabbalat Shabbat, right? So this is a Kabbalistic thing that there was, again, the Havdalah is actually something that was invented by the Kabbalists to connect the beginning of Shabbat and the end of Shabbat. Because think about, how do you begin Shabbat?
with lighting.
Yes, you light candles.
Yep.
How do you end Shabbat?
Light a candle.
The candle, right? How do you? What else you do to begin Shabbat?
Drink wine.
You drink wine. What do you do? What do you drink wine, right? Now, okay. So then you're supposed to have. Then what else you have? You have the meal, right? On Shabbat, well, every Shabbat, right? So you have the idea of having taste, right? So on the other end of it, instead of eating something, you have this sense of smell. So you have the sense of sight with the fire. You have the sense of touch with in touch with the fire because you can feel the heat from it. You say the blessing over the wine. You say the connection. So you're actually engaging in all 5 senses at the beginning and the ending of Shabbat.
Nice.
So it's a bookend. It's an enclosure.
Yeah.
Inclusio is what they call it. It's an inclusio structure, right? You have this, 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 and that's how, so you engage in all of the senses, the beginning and the end, and the ending of Shabbat. Right? And then, of course, again, the point of mysticism was to bring the Mashiach,
Mhm.
right? So therefore, we end with, we bring the Mashiach.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we bring the Mashiach.
Yeah.
So we bring Eliyahu. So there's that mysticism that goes from top to bottom, from beginning to end, from Kabbalat Shabbat to the end of Shabbat.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's really, like people say, you can make Abdullah through Tuesday. Yeah, it's true, actually, you can make Abdullah, if you haven't done the ceremony, you'll have to do it all the way through Tuesday. Because that's basically what they're saying is it doesn't matter, because if you've done Marv, you've already made Abdullah.
Uh-huh.
And if you haven't done Marv on that night, it doesn't really matter because Shabbat is over anyway.
Why not do Marv on Thursday?
I'm sorry?
No,
Because you know why? Because I think it has to do with the fact that the most auspicious day of the week to get married is Tuesday. Why?
Because if you have kosher caterers, they really
Because
don't want to
kosher
be
caterers
working.
really want the
Don't
business
want
on
to do it on a
Tuesday.
Saturday night.
No, there's gotta be there's a different reason for that, Michael.
But no.
Why is it the most auspicious day?
reading?
It's the most auspicious day of the week, not Shabbat, right? Not Friday, not Sunday,
I
Monday.
mean, I'm trying to think
So
of
that's something to
creation,
do
like
with
what
the
happened on the
Creation, okay,
Thursday.
what does it happen at the end of creation?
Oh, at the end, so
At the,
not
no,
on-
it's at the end of creation on the third day,
oh,
the phrase Vayar Elohim Ki Tov,
God
God
said
said
it is good.
happens twice in the creation on the third day.
Oh,
So therefore, the third day, Tuesday, is the most auspicious day of the week because it was, God saw twice that it was good.
Wouldn't the ones where he actually made man and woman?
Nope,
Wouldn't that make sense?
because once God created mankind, he said, oh, I
made a mistake.
I made a mistake.
I need a
Oh my
rest.
God,
Let's screw this up. Yes.
I messed this up.
Yeah.
Here, have it, here, I made a mistake, here, have an apple. All right, yeah, so let's meet next week again, what is it? Yeah, let's do, we'll go over some of the chanting and just
That's
get a.
great.
And then we'll think about what we'll do, going.
I don't know if we have time for it next week or not, but the one thing, I guess when we said Kabbalat Shabbat, I thought also we were gonna go over the Kaddish you say at home on a Friday night.
Oh.
But I
we
don't
didn't
know
actually,
if
but
that's, because I mean, for the past however many years I've been saying it, I just stumbled through it
The
in
Yom
my own
Shishi,
way.
Yom Shishi, right, that one.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just this one added paragraph that you say at home on Shabbat. Right?
yeah,
And the reason you do that at home is because actually by the Hulu, right? You have that in Shul. So if you're not in Shul, then you're not leaving that part out.
but
So
somehow
that's
I
what-
always thought of that as part of Kabbalat Shabbat.
Yeah, Vayir Vayiboker, Yom HaShishi, Vayichu Shemayim V'Chas V'Chosam, which is what you do. Vayichu, Hashem Layim, it's the same text that you have at the end of the sermon.
Oh,
But you're just adding the words Vayir Vayiboker, Yom HaShishi. Okay. I know, I'm keeping you up, Sandy.
You are. I didn't sleep last night, so I'm getting off now, but I'll see you next week.
All right, see you guys next
Okay.
week. Next week. Don't forget to be a quiz. There'll be a quiz. Bring your number 2. Bring your blue book, your blue books, and a number 2 pencil.
Good deal. Okay. Bye, guys.
Yeah,
Bye-bye, Sandy.